Have you ever noticed how all the biggest business influencers in the world seem to say the same thing?
But I definitely don't need to eat and drink, right? To work 18 hours a day.
Slaves worked all the hours they were awake. If they can do it, so can I.
Talk to me about work-life balance. I'm not the place for you. Our companies are hardcore. There's not a lot of work-life balance.
But what if they're all wrong? I want to show you step by step how you can still run a successful business and not just have a life, but spend less time managing your company than most people spend working as an employee. Let's call this a lifestyle business. A business that's meant to let someone live their life as close to their terms as possible, rather than having their life fully oriented around their business. This is going to require a delicate amount of balance and a relatively clean business operation. The first thing that we need to do is actually come up with an accurate profit margin. Most people look at profit margin on a product by product basis, but we need to look at the big picture. Here's how most people look at profit margin, and then let me tell you why this won't be helpful in order to accomplish this goal. Let's say I owned a restaurant and I sold the only dish that I know how to make, which is a grilled cheese sandwich. That grilled cheese sandwich should have around a 65% profit margin. So let's say I pay for the cheese and bread and, well, there's not much else that goes into a grilled cheese, is there? And it comes out to about $3. That means that I need to sell my awesome grilled cheese sandwich for about $8.50. And that would give me a 65% profit margin. But here are the things that doesn't take into account. What did I pay my waiters to serve my beautiful sandwich? What did it cost me to keep the lights on in the dining room and in the kitchen so that everyone could see my beautiful sandwich? What did I pay for gas to use the stove? And all of the other day-to-day expenses that go into running my totally real and not made up restaurant. The problem is that all of these things become very hard to calculate in a product by product profit margin. So while yes, we want to keep our profit margins at 65% in my restaurant example, we actually have to zoom out and look at the entire restaurant operation, which in this case, I might take 3 different months with varying levels of foot traffic and compare how much money was left over at the end of the month. And you'll want to exclude any abnormal expenses. Let's say I had a big restaurant repair or I wanted to buy a new stove or something like that. That wouldn't be a normal operating cost. I would also probably hone in on what it looks like when I have low customers. Obviously, some months I'm going to do better than others as a restaurant owner in my totally not made up fantasy. So in order to find my baseline profit, I should probably look at a month where I had a little bit less traffic than I normally do. And now if I wanted to get really specific with it, I could take however much profit I had and divide it by however many customers I had that month. And that will give me my average profit per customer, which, while not completely accurate, can be a helpful metric down the road as we get to steps 3 and 4. Speaking of which, let's move on to step 2. We need to shift gears and stop looking at your business for a minute, and now we need to look at your life. It's hard to have a lifestyle business without, looking at your life. And the best place to start is to look at your expenses and to figure out how much income would make you satisfied. Now, that word is very intentional and it's very important. Because unlike the massive big business empires that we discussed earlier, we're out to set a lifestyle business, which means that we're probably not going to be raking in millions just for doing a couple hours of work a week. People who build big businesses are, by definition, never satisfied. And that's actually what makes big businesses work. You don't make a good, big business empire by being satisfied with the status quo. But in our case, we're trying to create something that's meant to service a different part of our life, not orient our life around creating our business. So whether that's traveling or family or another passion project, our business is meant to supplement those things. So we need to figure out what amount of income would meet those needs. It might be $5,000 a month, it might be $10,000 a month. But you need to find the number that's not more or less than what would make you satisfied. And by the way, this is not the same number as your monthly budget. That's just your expenses. You need to be in surplus of that for really 2 reasons. The first is that you need money to save. Your nest egg shouldn't be static here. You should have some money going into accounts and maybe even some money going into retirement accounts, which we'll talk about later. 2 is that your budget probably doesn't include most things that you like to do. For example, my family likes to take between 1 and 2 vacations every year, and not just taking time off of work, but actually going somewhere and doing something fun. I personally enjoy golfing. I am not good at it, but I do enjoy doing it. Neither of those things would necessarily be included in my monthly budget. So that's why that word satisfied is important. Not just how much money would pay your minimum bills, but how much money would pay your bills and allow you to do the things that you actually enjoy doing. Now that we actually have those 2 numbers, which is your average profit per month and the level of income that would make you satisfied, now we just need to make those 2 numbers the same. Easy, right? Wrong. Not easy at all. In fact, you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, duh, that's how this whole thing works. Now, there are quite a few ways to approach this to start to bring those two numbers closer together. So let's go ahead and assume that we're not going to change that satisfactory income number at all. That's your goal. Let's try and meet it. No compromise needed unless we're 100% sure that we cannot meet that goal with the other things that we are able to do within our business. So as far as your business goes, you have 3 levers that you can pull in order to change that final profit number. You can either charge more money for your product or service, you can increase the amount of customers that you have, or you can cut expenses. Now, for a solo lifestyle business, that second lever is going to be a little bit hard to do. There's only one of you and you're working a limited amount of time as it is. It's going to be really difficult to continue to, scale and sell to more people without in turn working more hours. There is a way to do this, but I'm going to cover it in another video. But if we're just talking about you, I would try to find out how much of your product or service you can sell in a month in 60 hours. That's 15 hours a week spent only selling and nothing else. No business administration, no back-end stuff, but just in front of people selling your product or service and making sales. And to make things even easier, I'm actually going to use my own business as an example. If I spent 15 hours a week only doing financial planning for the bottom tier on my subscription, I could probably take on around 45 clients. Now, it could be a little bit more, but I'm assuming that some of those clients will be new and will have to go through the onboarding process, which does take a little bit longer. So 45 is probably the max. Now, this might look different for you, especially if you're not in the service business like I am. Maybe you sell an actual physical product, or maybe your business relies on you constantly having new customers all the time. Whatever the case might be, you need to figure out how many customers you can sell to in that 60 hours a month period. And if that actually happened, how much money would you actually take home? You can use some of the numbers that we used for that profit equation earlier to find this out. In my case, if I'm just servicing the bottom tier and I'm just servicing 45 clients, I'm only taking home about $2,700 after expenses. That's not very much. So I would tell myself that we need to pivot to one of the other levers, which is that we need to raise prices. Now, you could probably take entire college courses on this topic. In fact, I would argue that a lot of people who have taken entire college courses on this topic still don't know how to do it.
Oh, no. It's very easy. We use FedEx.com. Anybody can do it.
No, you don't understand. I have an MBA.
Oh, you have an MBA. In that case, I'll have to show you how to do it.
Pricing appropriately can be a very difficult thing to do. And I would also argue that it's a little bit connected to one of the other levers, which is your expenses. If something costs you more to make, you should probably charge more for it. But you also need to take into account the value that's delivered to the customer. For example, and this is especially true in the service business, many people are not just paying for your time, but also all of the time and money that it took for you to become the person who they could even pay for their time. Using my own business as an example again, people aren't just paying me for the time that it takes to create a financial plan, but they are also paying for all of the time and money it took for me to become someone who could even give them a financial plan. Schooling, licensing, experience, all of those things come together to make something that eventually the customer ends up paying for. Same would go for a doctor. In order for you to see a doctor for an hour, they have to go to school, they have to pay for school, they have to have a residency. There's a lot of other things that need to happen, and all of that comes out in the price tag when you want to see a doctor for an hour. The value provided isn't just the 1 hour of time, but it's also all of the time and money that it took in order to be able to even offer that 1 hour of time. Finally, let's talk about the last lever, which is your expenses. In my opinion, this is probably one of the easiest ones to adjust, especially if you've been running a business for a couple of years. Think about how easy it is to just spend a little bit less money. Unused software, unused subscriptions, and even staffing can be a huge waste of money. Oh, this sounds familiar. Now, we'll talk about another video how wasting money on staff can actually be a good thing. But remember, for every dollar here that you can eliminate is a dollar that we move that needle closer to that goal of your satisfactory income. Let's assume that you've mastered steps 1, 2, and 3. Your business workload is in a good place, and you're making enough money to keep you happy, pay for the things that you want, but nothing exorbitant. Now what? Well, we need to continue to actually create more and more flexibility. And there's 2 problems that we need to address specifically. Your nest egg is going to become important if you come into a situation where your business has a problem that's going to require either a lot of time or a lot of money to solve. So it would be nice to have a nest egg to draw from in order to solve that problem. The other thing you need to address is the possibility of complete and total future retirement. Both of these require money in slightly different places. That first issue needs to be in an account that you can access without penalties and without a huge delay. Usually, just a normal taxable brokerage account will let you invest money for the long term, which this is still money for the long term, but also still let you access it if you need it. You will owe taxes on that money more likely than not, but that's better than paying a 10% penalty or worse. And the retirement accounts give you other tax advantages specifically for retirement. Now, I'll make another video talking about what retirement specifically you can do as a single business owner, because they are different than if you were to have a business with multiple employees or be an employee yourself. More likely than not, you're putting money into both places, or at least you should be. Of course, there's more technical information that we could get into in order to make the system work, and to learn more about that, you can visit the link in the description below.